One. Hi everyone, welcome to Talking Mental Health. This is the third conversation that I've done so far, and with me today is a former colleague of mine from out in the States, and it's his fault I'm doing a lot of stuff like this at the moment because he had me on his podcast last year. Mr. Paul Cox, how are you, mate?
Good, mate. Are you?
Yeah, doing well, thank you. Appreciate you coming on this evening.
Anytime, my mate. Anytime.
So as you guys know, if you've seen the other two episodes, Paul and I, we're just going to have a chat. It's not going to be anything formal. It's just a conversation. I guess first question, in the times that we're in, mate, how's life been the last couple of months?
Um, it's been okay. I'm not going to sit here and say it's been terrible because obviously there's always other people in worse situations in myself, but it's been a big realisation, I think, without sounding corny. But it's been all right, mate. I've got my health, keeping occupied. It's been struggling at times, but overall, mate, it's been good. It's been all right.
And how's it now? Is it different now? Now that we've kind of eased up a little bit, has it changed much, or was it same as?
Yeah. Obviously, coaching football is a massive one for me. That's my bread and butter. I'm not having that. At nice, the break was nice, and I always need a little break from coaching. I need and that usually lasts for about 2-3 weeks, and I miss it again. But to not have it for 4 months, and then little habits like seeing friends and family being taken away. So, but things coming back in now, being able to go in the garden, have a little chit chat, being able to walk in groups if you're going on a walk, miles better. But it's gone better, mate.
That's good. It's good to hear it's getting better. Just give us a bit of background. I know you well, but anybody who sees this who doesn't know you, just give us a bit of your background because you touched on coaching there. Just explain, what you do for a living.
Yeah. So my occupation is I'm a sports coach, and I work in primary schools delivering curriculum in PE. I've done football coaching for 10 years now. Yeah, started at 18, 19 years, or longer than that, innit? 18, 19 years old. Started my journey there, and had to work hard because I didn't do any sort of qualification in college or in high school. I didn't do PE. So I had to pretty much start from the bottom. I'm currently coaching. Did my UEFA B a couple of years ago. And I've obviously got my own channel doing a bit of YouTubing, which I've not done for a while, which I'll explain as we go along today. But yeah, just teaching curriculum sport, do a little bit of football and having a general laugh, mate. That's what I do. That's my ammunition. So that's it, really. Nothing special.
We've got that in common. I think that's one thing. I was the same when I went, finished high school, did a bit of 2-year college, and then that was it for me. I didn't go off to uni and do my degree or anything like that. And that's an interesting point, actually. So I'm gonna touch on that because you mentioned it. When you were in high school, was higher education on your radar, or was it something you were thinking about, or did you feel pressure to do it, or did you make the decision early that not gonna go off to uni, I'm gonna get my feet wet and go into the working world?
I think with me growing up, I was very. I had a lot of influence from my mum and dad. They were always pushing me to do better. My dad left school, got a job, pretty much. Just a boring story, really. But my dad always said, kind of try and push yourself. Same with my mum. And I don't think anybody kind of went to do higher education in the family. So, I always kind of saw achievement as a big thing because ultimately where I got my pride from was making my mum and dad happy. So if I did something, I'm obviously like my nan and cousins, we were quite a close family, and obviously achieving something like that would make them proud. But it's something I wanted to do as well. It wasn't just I'm just doing it for them. It was for me as well. So I did have my eyes set on going to college, and I wanted to get into journalism. So people who know me through high school, I just love football. I was talk about it all the time. I was quite good with English, and that was the journey I wanted to kind of head towards at the time. But in terms of university, no, I didn't. And I did go for one day, and then I scrapped it because it just weren't for me.
Fair enough.
It just weren't for me, mate. And it was, I remember a funny story. Right, I turned up, I picked a course I had no clue about. I had a tutor called Dr. Sweet. Shout out Dr. Sweet. Honestly, real doctor. This is no word. He was called Dave. But so I remember just being in the room with him, and I was like the last one. He says, "You need to apply for uni. You need to apply for university." And obviously, when you're hearing people in the hallway, friends, "Oh God, I'm going here," kind of feel a bit left out. And to be fair, in terms of a support network around me, I didn't have any sort of clue or idea where, like, for me, Joe, going to university was the norm. Some people were going to the army, to all this, that, and the other. So I thought, right, I'll just apply. Went for this course, didn't have a clue what I applied for. It was international hospitality management. Yeah, here we go. Right, seriously.
First step to journalism.
Yeah. Well, I've basically put my feet up in college. I'm not going to lie. So I did this. I applied for this course, got in. Don't know how. I thought it was literally going abroad into hotels, in the hotel industry. Seriously, naivety. So turn up, shirt, shorts, like I always do. Very casual first day. And I literally am sat in a room full of chefs just cooking. I'm sat there 3 hours, introduction, big projector, woman in front. I remember it to this day. There were 3 blokes behind me with an apron and a pinny, honestly. And I'm sat there, casual as you like. It were awkward, and I was so awkward I couldn't walk out. I had to sit for the full 3 hours, and I just rang them up and said no. So the moral of that story is, please make sure you know what you're actually doing. Don't just assume. But yeah, your answer to your question, Joe, was college, yeah, university, no.
Yeah, fair enough. It's interesting because while you were saying that, you said about Dr. Sweet and, someone saying you need to apply to higher education. Did you feel when you were in high school under pressure, or sort of almost people forcing your hand to go, or was it them kind of encouraging and then leaving the decision up to you ultimately?
High school, no pressure. I think it was more of it was the college factor. I had to go to university, and I did get a bit of pressure. I did, and I felt a bit left out, and I felt like everyone's kind of, and this is just how I work. I thought everybody's doing this, and I'm just down here stuck. But there was no other option. There was no, well, you know what, you can do this. Do you know what? If you don't want to go into higher education, that's fine. There was none of that. I just felt left out, and I just thought, do you know what, I'm going to have to do it. And then it only took me to go there, realise my experience, and I just thought, what am I doing? What am I doing? So I had the chat with my mum when I came home, and she fully supported me, and then that was it. Didn't go back.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it, sometimes when you see your mates or your group of friends or family or whatever doing a certain thing, whatever it may be, and you think, well, I don't want to be the odd one out here. I don't want to be different. But at the same time, you also want to make your own choices based on what it is that you want to do, rather than doing it because everyone else is doing it.
Yeah. And when you're hearing them noises around you, like with anything in life, and it's like if you go to the pub with your mates, and it's shot, you're all having shots, you feel like you've got to do it. The peer pressure. It's what it was like in college. And don't get me wrong, I met some amazing people in college, loved my time in college. But it just felt like it was, I don't know if that was because I was in a local college, it was a 10-minute walk, and then to go to Manchester, the big city, I never mentally prepared for that. I think I was still not a kid, but I was still I was still in that naive, bit immature stage. Do you know what I mean? Not that I came across as, do you know what I mean? For people, I've always been who I've been, but in my own head, I just didn't feel mentally prepared for that, and I just thought, no, it's just not for me.
Yeah, I think people downplay that sort of teenage pressure. When you're that age, your brain's still developing. You're not fully matured yet. I did a training recently, and the doctor on it was saying that, he's a child psychologist, and he was saying that the brain doesn't fully function until you're about 26.
Right.
And the biggest transition is your teenage years. So that affects mood swings and behavior and everything like that. And, at 15 or 16, you're expected to make a pretty big decision about going to higher education. And then you're expected at 17, 18, 19 to make a decision about going to uni. When I think back to that age, I didn't really know what I wanted to do.
No.
But I was kind of different to you in the sense that I wasn't actually bothered whether I did the same thing as my friends or not. I actually liked the fact that I was the different one, not because I was a rebel, just because I didn't like the norm, the traditional route of college, uni, job, career. whatever it was. I wanted to do something different, and that's how I ended up in the States. And it's just interesting when you speak to people a lot of the time, they don't want to feel left out, whereas I feel like, I mean, I can relate to it, I can understand it, but I never really bothered being,
No.
you know, I didn't want to be left out, but I never sort of was the sheep and never thought, I've got to do that because everybody else is doing it. Do you think there's a lot of pressure on lads at that age and early 20s to kind of follow the crowd and do what everyone else is doing? Or do you think it's more of a, people just make the choice to follow because it's the easiest option?
I think it's more pressuring now, mate. I think I remember kind of starting in college in 2007, and Facebook was a thing then. Facebook was a big thing. So like now you could go on someone's profile, Joe, and you could know what they had for their birthday last year, where they went on holiday. You know all this. So I feel like you know, people at that age, it's going to be, well, the parties, the experiences, and don't get me wrong, it sounds amazing, but there's more to that why you're going. And it sounds boring here, but you're there to get your degree. But I just think people, I think there's a lot of pressure of that. I think it's down to basically just kind of getting in with the crowd. You see the videos on Snapchat, you see the Instagram stories. You want to be there, you want to be a part of that, and you're sitting there and you feel like you're missing out. And I think that's probably a little bit of me, that, because obviously I did most of my partying in college, started to go out a lot more, socialise a lot more with different people, and the one thing that was just spinning around in conversation was freshers. The nights out, the parties. Don't get me wrong, great, but you're not going to be doing that 7 days. Well, some people bloody would, wouldn't they? But you're not going to be doing that all the time. You're there to do it. And for me, if I was going to go to university, I'd have had to absolutely graft in terms of the educational side. I could not have done what most people do: go out, educate, study for an exam. Do you know what I mean? I'd have had to probably minimise that to once a week, twice a week. I know it sounds boring, but I just know myself. I had to kind of, I weren't blessed with knowledge. I had to really work hard, revise my stuff for that sort of thing. But so I think there's a lot of pressure, mate. More now than ever.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You said you were kind of boring, and I feel like I was similar. I would go out and drink when I was sort of 17 to 21. And even, when I was in the States, I would go out every now and again, but I never felt like I was the life of the party. I was never that bothered about missing out though either. If some of my mates went out and I just wasn't feeling it, I would just literally say, no, I'm good. And to be fair, I had some really good friends, and that, they weren't the kind of friends that would say, well, you've got to come out. You have to come out. Why you're not coming out? There wasn't that pressure to be out and about. But I think, there can be a lot of pressure, especially on lads. I guess girls as well. That if everyone's going out and you miss out, you're the odd one out, and you miss out on the good stuff. Interesting. So sort of moving forward into your early 20s, you said you started coaching at 18, 19?
Yeah, I did my level 1 when I was 19. That's when I started to start my new life, if that makes sense. I know that sounds a bit deep. So I kind of went away from come out of uni, what can I do next? And the only thing that kind of came to my head is I actually sat down and thought, what do I want to do? What do I want to do for a life, hobby, career, whatever, and coaching. Just started my level 1. And that was what I was working full time. I was working for a local authority. I love my job there. So it was just a council, doing a bit of admin work, basic half 8, half 4 job, flexible hours, close to home, decent wage, starting as an apprentice. Met some great people through there as well. And obviously after work in my time was doing the coaching side, as we all do, as we all start off a bit of volunteering. But I was still going out having fun, Joe. I was still going out on a Friday and a Saturday, mate. Do you know what I mean? I was still having a laugh, having a boogie and all that. But I had a bit of structure in my life. I was earning a wage, and I was, even though I got my full-time job, because technically I was coaching before my full-time job, I still carried on with it. It wasn't just to kind of, I'm just doing this to try and get a job. I genuinely had a passion to wanting to get into coaching. And that came from when I was about 14. And I just always kind of got told you had to be a footballer, you had to be this to do this, that and the other. And I just thought, you know what, sod it. And the one person who motivated me to do that, yes, family, of course, but as crazy as he sound, it was Jose Mourinho, simply because he wasn't a big footballer. And when he came onto the scene and I read his background, I thought, this guy hasn't come from anywhere where you're kind of given, the authority to come and manage. He's earned his badges. So that was my motivator. So early 20s, he was just basically working as we all do, and coaching badges, level 1 in 2010, working at a local club called Curzon, and just took it from there. And that's all it was, mate. Just trying to get better as the time went on.
And as a young man, how did getting your level 1 change your mentality and your confidence? Did it make you believe that you could actually do it? Was that the sort of rocket that you needed to get yourself going?
I talked about before the immature side to me. When I was working in a job where I was dealing with members of the public, I was dealing with adults, I was had a bit of authority, and then I'm doing that as well. So I'm working with 2 audiences and working with, like you say, adults and young children. I passed that level 1 and I felt on top of the world. And that's when I started to become, not that I weren't confident before, but I felt confident in what I was delivering, whether that's a simple phone call to the HR or IT department, to having 12 or 14 children in front of me and I'm coaching them. So that was a sparking for me where I think I could do and where that could take me to, if that makes sense. Yeah. It was a big game changer for me, that, yeah.
And how, obviously I've been through coaching just like you have, started at the bottom essentially and worked my way up.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first time you did a coaching session and it just completely fell on its arse and you just thought, why has this not worked? What's gone on here? And how did you get through that? Because for me, I remember one coaching session and it was just, I'd planned it just like I normally would, and it just did not work. For you, what was your process of getting through a session like that to make yourself think, do you know what, I am good enough, and I can still do this. It's just a one-off.
I've not let failure affect me. Normally, I would, I just going back from when I was a kid, and nothing specific in particular, but if something didn't go right, so like if I stood up in the class and delivered a speech, I would just kind of freeze. With the coaching side of things, I was confident enough to just, I can change it like that. So if something wasn't going right in terms of maybe the session not looking quite right and it just looks a bit of a mess, at that time, so I'm talking about very from the start, I would probably just I would just drop it and move it on. That was early stages. But obviously as you grow older, sessions are meant to look like a mess, aren't they? Especially with the foundation phase. But I never let it affect me. I like you say, as soon as I kind of hit that 19-year-old stage, my mentality in terms of, I would just kind of quickly move it on. I would just be brave enough, and it might not even always look right if I did change it, Joe, but it was the decision inside to say, hey, all right, that's not worked, we're moving here now. And then I'll kind of reflect on why it didn't work.
Solid. So, and were you the same off the pitch as well? Did you take that mentality into your personal life? If things weren't working out, did you just move on, or was it a little bit trickier in that sense?
A bit trickier in my personal life. It's weird that you mentioned that, because it's sometimes football for me is it's a saviour in terms of growing up watching it, liking it, sticker books as a kid, telly, sitting with my dad, friends. It's like a different world with the real life stuff. I was probably up in the air a little bit with how to deal with certain things. So I would maybe should try and put the two together, but it was more of a, I don't know, it's more, if something really happened, so if you had a car crash, for example, the first thing is you panic, you worry. And very similar to the session, if you have a car crash with your session, you always have that backup. But I suppose in them scenarios, because it was all new, and as you're growing up, you're learning lots of different things when you're growing up. When you're an adult, it's paying bills, getting all this, that, and the other. Things happen. I think that's where experience comes. So in the early stages, it didn't affect me too much. I kind of moved on quickly. But in the certain time of when things were happening, I remember when I bumped my car, shit my pants. Sorry if I swore there, but absolutely, I I just didn't know what to do, didn't know what to ring. You know what I mean? I absolutely panicked and flaps, and I think I was nearly in tears, and I'll admit that because I was about 21 years old. Honestly, I was nearly crying. Where as if I bumped my car now, I know do you know what I mean? And all the procedures.
Yeah.
So I think experience is a big thing for me. Whereas with my coaching, I kind of got so much experience in the early days of doing everything and thinking, do you know what? I achieved that level 1. I don't mind if I make a mistake. I was happy with that. But in terms of life, little things like that. And I know a car crash is a car crash, but for me, it's a big thing. Spent all my money on that Citroen C1 and I was in tears, mate. So, but yeah, I know I've waffled on a bit there, but it's very two different worlds, Joe, and what I'm trying to say.
And did you feel like you were two different people when you were coaching and when you weren't coaching? Or were you the same person, but you just dealt with it differently because of the scenario that you were in?
Just dealt with it differently. I've always been myself. I don't try to be anyone. It's just how my mind works at the time. And I was like, don't know what to do. Don't know how to deal with this.
Yeah. You've got a strong mentality, or it sounds like you did that from a young age. I mean, I only sort of met you 6-7 years ago. I mean, you were still young then, but you know, I didn't know you prior to that. But it sounded like you were very sort of strong mentality in terms of you had a conviction of your decisions, and you just had a good support network around you as well. So you knew that if you did make a decision and it didn't work out, like with uni, you had your parents and your family behind you to say, you know what, all right, fair enough, it didn't work out, but just move on to the next one.
Of course.
Yeah. And was that a big thing for you? Like, would you be a different person if you didn't have that support network to catch you when you fell out of uni, or you reached a scenario that didn't quite work out how you thought it was going to?
100%. I think that my mum I saw a lot of my mum in my upbringing because my mum was more or less she was at home a lot of the time, so she'd pick me up from school, take me to school. I'd be there in the summer holidays when go and see my nan and stuff. And my mum always kind of gave me that reassurance of like, don't worry. At the end of the day, saying, "Oh, that's to America. You're a plane away, or if anything goes wrong with it wasn't like mummy and daddy will fix it. It was we're here for you no matter what." And don't get me wrong, when I was young, I had to learn the hard way with a lot of things, and that might have crossed between, like, just for example, like you'd think Invincible, she'd go out and absolutely get smashed. Don't drink too much. Oh, she's just nagging at me. Next day, you'd comatose on a sofa, and she says, "I'm always right." And you can't argue. You was always right. But just to rewind it a little bit, just for example, the university thing. I know my dad wasn't really a big fan of me dropping out. He was, "We'll give it a go. You've got to give it a go." And I remember it just being a little bit dicky at the time. And my mum was, "Well, if he doesn't want to do it, he doesn't want to do it." Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it was a bit of a dividing opinion. And my nan was amazing. So my mum just kind of said, "Listen, why are you looking for work? Why are you still doing it? We'll come up with a plan. In the morning, you go on the computer, search for jobs, have a look what's about, and then in the afternoon you can help me do some cleaning." And that was my routine, and I'd go for a run, just so I wasn't sat on my ass doing anything. And I'll be honest with you, Joe, every single day, and I know it was only for about 6 months I was looking for a job. I didn't sign on or anything like that. Not that that's terrible, just my decision. I didn't really need any money. Every day I woke up, I felt guilty. I felt so guilty. And I don't know why. I didn't do anything wrong, but I just felt like I weren't doing anything with my life. But my mum and my nan always made it feel normal. Like, there's nothing to be, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that, honestly, that I can't stress that importance of that time in my life. Whereas if my mum was probably on my dad's side with that opinion of go and give it a go, I probably wouldn't be coaching, because that was the influence for me to go and do that, dropping out of uni. And I'd probably just be sat there doing something I wouldn't enjoy. Probably wouldn't even be speaking to you right now, Joe.
Yeah.
So I always look at that impact, and that support network is so important. Massive part decision in my life, that 100%. So I'd be lost without it, mate.
Yeah, I can completely relate. I can understand, because the first college that I picked after high school, I dropped out at Christmas, did 4 months and just dropped out. And then after I'd finished college, or the second college that I started at, I ended up going to college in Michigan and didn't even last that long because that didn't work out either. But, both times I dropped out, I was disappointed in myself, but I also knew my parents were disappointed, but there was that support network again around me
Yeah.
for them to say, all right, well, it didn't work out, but at least you tried. And I think I've always taken that mentality into coaching and into my later life as well, that it doesn't matter if you try and you fail. If you commit to
Yes.
something and it doesn't work out and you're not happy with it, or it's not working out for you, or you're not enjoying it, or whatever the reason is, I don't think there's any shame in turning around and saying, you know what, I made a bad decision, it didn't work out, and I'm going to change that. So do you think, as a man, are you comfortable enough to just say when you've messed up, in terms of, if you make a decision and it doesn't work out the way you think it would, like, with the university experience, are you happy enough just to say, it doesn't matter because I tried? Or do you feel like sometimes you're getting judged on a bad decision, not just by friends and family, but by other people as well?
You know what? I reckon in the early 20s, everyone was always still people were at university. So I kind of like I used to just say like, oh yeah, there was a mess up at the university, and that's why I didn't go. I used to drop a little white lie, just to strangers, not to friends.
Yeah.
But I don't feel bad, and I think that was key. What you were saying there, I've become a bit more compassionate. So if I ever speak to people, they go, Paul, did you go uni? I go, no, I didn't go uni. And I don't have any sort of regrets on that anyway, because I always believe that not going to uni is giving me an absolute amazing memories and some experiences and some in life. But I don't ever feel bad at all. I feel like it's normal, it's fine, it's acceptable. We don't have to go with the status quo. So I'm very comfortable when people ask me that, and I go, yeah, you know what? No, I didn't. No looking back.
Yeah, and I think for both of us, from what we both said there, we were both lucky in the sense that we had a really good support network around us.
Yeah.
Do you find that support network helped you through those difficult times when when you needed someone to be there for you? Did you feel like you
100%.
always had someone there to listen and to support you?
Yeah, like say my mum and my nan, amazing. I'd either go down for a brew, my nan's, again about a 30-minute walk from my house, and I had my mum, and it was just nice just to just talk. Do you know what I mean? And if I felt a bit down, I could talk about it, and if I just wanted to talk about something else, I had that. So crucial, Joe. So crucial, and it's interesting to think what would have happened if it wasn't like that. And I feel like sometimes I know many people don't have that. And I always encourage, for people I know, if you ever need to talk about anything, I'll try and give you my best advice. Not what you want to hear necessarily sometimes, but I will help you in any way I can, and I just kind of get that from my mum and my nan. So, yeah, massively important.
Yeah, no, it's huge, and it's always good that to know that someone's there to listen to you and give you advice when you need those people to do that for you. And we were talking before. I know you had a couple of deaths in the last few years from that support network that you just talked about. Can you just touch upon, how that affected you and how you dealt with those difficult times?
Yeah, it's 3 years ago I lost my nan. That was kind of the reason I came back home from the States and never went back out. She wasn't too clever halfway through the States, but she's been a bit ill for a long time, and if you met her, you'd never have thought that. My nan was amazing, absolutely different generation. She wasn't your typical lady. If you walk past the window, you did, because she'd love a knitting and cake. But you have a chat with her, like talking to a sailor. Do you know what I mean? And I had so many precious memories with that woman, and she always told me about don't take life too serious, enjoy it, have fun, work hard. All them values which many of us do get told. Unfortunately, it was a bad time. Mum was very down, and then literally, mate, when I just thought the world was ending for me, a few months later, my mum got told that she only had 6-7 months to live. And people can tell you how that feels, but you can't put into words what it actually means. I just felt it meant my life was over too, and when I got told that, I felt sick. I just couldn't. I didn't know how to react. I remember just being in the kitchen and just dropping on my knees, and it was difficult, Joe, because one minute you're kind of thinking, right, my mum went through a bad time with my nan passing away. And then obviously you try and support my mum, and just because she would cry, and every time I go down, she'd be crying, and I had to be brave. And then just when she was just, I'm not saying getting over it, because I think those are the wrong words, but I think when she was just trying to get back to normality, doing what she does, doing a garden, making the cakes, that hit. And it was tough. And my granddad passed away the year after, which was my mum's dad. My granddad and my nan weren't living together. They were divorced. They were divorced just before I was born. So, but I didn't really see a lot of my granddad because he remarried and lived with another family. But, you know, just going back to it, it just felt like the world was collapsing. And it was awful, mate. And it still is awful, and it's been difficult to deal with. So not having them two there, my mum and my nan, just not singling out my granddad, I'm just saying because they were my support network.
Yeah.
I'm telling you now, my life has took a lot of bumps, and more ways than people probably actually imagine. Because I'm going to be honest with you, Joe, I keep things really not close to my chest, but I try not to. You know, if you saw me like in the street, you wouldn't know I was upset. I kind of keep things private, and maybe should talk about them a little bit more. But it is the most difficult moment in my life, mate. So yeah, it wasn't good. It wasn't good.
Yeah, I mean that's tough for anybody, isn't it? You know, I lost my nan the first year I was out UK Elite, not long before I was supposed to come home, and I couldn't not come home. I came home early, and it was really hard for me being out in the States, kind of alone, really. And, I was living with lads, as you know, you live in a house with other people, but you've got family so far away. Even though you're only a flight away, it still feels like they're really distant.
Yeah.
So how did you sort of cope? In that time, sort of between your nan dying and your mum passing away as well, like, did you talk to your mum much about your nan, or was it kind of just being strong for her because that's what she needed at the time? Like, what was how did your sort of relationship change with your mum or with your dad in that difficult time?
I look back on that scenario with my nan, and I dealt with it poorly. I'd really dealt with it awful, and I regret it. Because my mum used to say it's okay to cry, and I never cried. But when I got in the car and I was driving away, or I was going somewhere, I would cry in the car. I would cry in the car. I would cry in the room. I'd cry in the bathroom, in the shower, but never in front of my mum. And I don't think that was a masculinity thing. I don't know. Subconsciously, may have been. I don't want to be, I'm big and hard, because I never come across. I hope I don't come across like that. But I just never wanted to show sign of weakness. I didn't want to show that I was sad, and I was sad, and I am still sad about it. And we never talked about it. But my mum used to talk to me about it, and she would go and see some help at the time, which was the right thing to do. And she says, Paul, you can speak to someone, if you don't want to speak to me, and you can speak to someone. And it wasn't that I couldn't speak to my mum. I think I was just angry, Joe. I felt like I was robbed, because that was the first sort of major death in the family. Before that was my granddad, and I was only my other granddad, and I was only very young. That was my dad's dad. So, I was there for my mum in terms of support. I was there for my mum, but maybe I could have dealt with my own grieving a lot better, because it wasn't great.
Yeah. Do you feel like you took on that role of looking after your mum because you're a man and that was the role you were supposed to take on?
Yeah, I'd drop the world for my mum. I would, and I think I know I'm obviously going to say that, but I genuinely would, because like I said there just before about the she did everything for me. She would, like you say, just taking. We didn't have a car when we were little, so she'd get the bus, little things like that. I do remember them. I value that, and I value the person that she was. And same with my nan. And I felt like if I can do anything for her, it would be always to be there for her in terms of helping her. My dad's very old school. He doesn't really deal with things very well in terms of like being that compassionate. I think it's the generation thing. He's your typical bloke, really. That sort of where he just didn't know what to say, how to deal with things. Just a very quiet guy, my dad. I'm probably more like my mum in terms of being a bit more outspoken, but I was always there for my mum. But I felt like I just didn't want to. I don't know, Joe. I just didn't want to create sadness. But like you say, when I walked out that door, or if I went, into my bedroom, I'd just have a cry, and I just never did it in front of my mum.
And again, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think everybody deals with things in their own different way. I think it's good that you right now you can admit that you did cry. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, especially in a situation like that where you've lost a member of your family that you're so close to. As a man, do you feel, you said there that your mum said you could go and talk to somebody. Like, as a man, did you feel like that was an option for you? Or did you just feel like that was something that your mum wanted you to do because that's how stereotypically women would go and deal with their feelings?
I just didn't feel like I could. And I just didn't think it would make a difference. I had this naivety where I thought, what are they going to say? What are they going to say that make me feel better? And my mum had that attitude at the start, and then she actually did go and see someone. And I remember she used to come back and tell me how it went. And then some days she'd come back fine, and then some days she'd come back angry. So I was kind of like, she said, well, they're telling me these things and I've got to do these things. But I think she's just grieving. She's grieving. And I think, that was understandable. But I just felt like, as a bloke, I don't know, I just felt like I didn't know what to have said, Joe. If I was speaking to you now in that scenario and I went to see yourself, and wouldn't know what to say. I don't know what to say, and I don't know, because if I couldn't say it to my mum, why am I going to say it to a stranger? And if I was going to speak to anyone about my nan, it would be my own mum. So I just didn't feel like there was anything out there about it, to be honest with you, mate, even though I was told to go, but where'd you go?
Yeah, I think so. Sorry about that, mate. That's the $1 million question sometimes.
Yes.
As a man, where do you go? Where is that place that I can go and feel comfortable and, walk in the door and say, I'm struggling, or I need to talk to somebody, or I need a bit of advice. I think, it's not, I think sometimes, fellas, myself included, you want to express something, but like you said, you don't want to say it to a member of your family to upset them or to bring that kind of grief around. But then it's, well, where else do you go? Where is that space that I can walk into and be honest and be vulnerable? Do you have a network of friends that you could do that with? Or again, was it the male circle of don't really talk about your feelings and that you're upset? Was your way just to deal with it on your own, in your own time, away from other people?
Yes, from a nan, yes. I have a network of friends who, if they were in this conversation now, of course they say you can speak to me about anything. And I know mates say that, it's like the mandatory thing to say. But at that particular time in my life, I didn't want to speak to anyone about it. I kept it close to my chest. I didn't know how to deal with it at the time, which is really scary. Right now, we're reflecting on it. I thought I was dealing with it all right. That's the worrying bit. But looking on it now, and I know anyway, that's not how to deal with it. And that's why I regret it so much, because I don't know. I didn't feel like I needed to speak to anyone about it. I really don't. And I've got one of my very closest friends who who used to kind of hang around with when I was a kid. I've known him since he was 8. We grew up together from being little to still, go and watch United together now. And he knew my nan. He used to come around for tea. When I used to go and spend a weekend at my nan's, I didn't even speak to him about it, Joe. And I might have mentioned a little thing about it, but not in the detail of letting my feelings out. I couldn't. and I just couldn't, and I just kept it to myself, and I just felt this is the best way of doing it. I don't want people to bother me about it. I'll deal with it myself, and that's just the penultimate view on it I had.
Yeah. Do you think if the same situation happened now, in the age
Mm.
that you're at, would you deal with it completely differently?
Well, I did with my mum. And yes, if it, God forbid it ever happening again with anyone else close to me, I would 100% deal with it different. I would 100% deal with it different. But at that particular time, again, I go back to what I said at the start, experiences, going back to that car crashing, didn't know how to deal with it, crying over a bumped car. Come on, Paul, grow up. With that, again, I've never gone through that stage of grievance or losing a close family member. Obviously, when you're a child, it's completely different, isn't it? I remember crying, but I kind of like, I can't remember that far back, but I just got on with it. I was sad, and I must have talked to my parents about it back then, but when you're an adult, as a bloke, you just don't know what to do.
Yeah. Did it fester in the sense that, when you didn't really express it to anybody, was there a point, where you felt that it kind of came to a head, and I won't say you've exploded, but, you kind of really felt the weight of that on top of your shoulders or on your chest or anything, or was it just, you dealt with it slowly a little bit by little bit, and then it just kind of gradually helped you cope?
Yeah, I mean, when I spoke to my mum, I'd be sat there, and it's like I'm holding it in, and I would start tearing up a bit, and it was like I don't know, it's like someone trying to, it's about to pop, literally. When like rubber bands around a milk bottle, and it's about to blow. That's just the only thing I can think of. That's probably me, but it weren't popping; it was just leaking a bit, and that was me. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. I'm talking about it now. It just makes me sad to think like back then. If I could go back and say, listen, just go and cry together, because it's not healthy. And I don't know what my mum would have felt at the time, not seeing, because I was so close with my nan. You know what I mean? Again, we just go and watch the footy with her, go around, watch Prison Break on a Friday night after school. Loved all that. We used to have some good laughs, me and my nan, and my cousins would be there. I don't have many regrets, but that was one of them. But it just festered away, Joe. I never really got to a conclusion with it, because obviously not so long after, obviously we found out Mum wasn't well, so it kind of just diminished that, and it was the next problem.
Yeah, it's a tough. I think, like you said, when you're a kid, you don't fully understand death and stuff like that, so you know what it is. You're not going to see a certain person again, and you cry, but you don't really know why you're crying, I think.
Yeah.
And I think as you get older, you understand it more. And I think I went through this at least a couple of times, where I was upset about somebody passing away or about a situation, and I felt emotional, but I couldn't cry.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And I'm not talking about around a bunch of people where I'm holding it in for fear of what they think of why I'm crying. It was just, I might be sat at home and see something on TV that reminded me of something, and I thought, that's really upset me. And whatever it was, I could, you could almost feel it, but I couldn't actually release it. And I think sometimes as a man, it's hard to actually release that feeling or that emotion, because, growing up, I think you said it before, your dad was kind of very, you didn't say he was shut down, but he didn't really deal with things, generationally.
So, yeah.
Probably very similar to my dad. I don't think I ever saw my dad cry.
Yeah, I think that's the same with me.
I think back to when I was a kid, and I don't remember him ever crying that I can think of off the top of my head. Are you the same? Do you ever remember seeing your dad or your grandparent, another grown man in your family crying?
I think when City won the league, my dad cried. No, I'm joking. No, interesting when you say that. I've never seen a grown man cry. When you mention it there, no. I saw my granddad every now and then. My uncle, my mum's brother, only till funerals. But in growing up, because we were, again, we used to go on holidays together. Never saw anyone cry, and it makes you think about that, doesn't it? That's quite powerful, that. Whereas probably today now it's more acceptable to cry.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe for that generation, it was probably like same thing as I was going through with my nan. I don't want to see anyone making me seem upset. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when I was younger, I remember my dad's father passed away. I think I was only 6 or 7. I was very, very young. But then when his mother died, I think I was about 10 or 11. So I was kind of getting to that age where I understood a little bit more. And I mean, I know my dad. I never saw him cry in front of me, but I'm sure he did. But he didn't want to show that because there was that sort of bravado thing about, I'm upset, but I don't want anybody to see me upset. Kind of like you were saying before, you didn't want to see your mum. You didn't want your mum to see you upset, so you kind of took that away from her. Do you think that's something that we can do better as now male adults? Obviously neither of us have children, but do you think it's good for men to cry in front of their young sons, because then it kind of normalizes the emotion and normalizes that there's nothing wrong with it. If you're upset, you can cry.
I think obviously, like, I think going back to when you said about your dad losing his father, same with me when I lost my granddad. I was only a baby when my dad's mum passed away. I don't ever remember seeing my dad at the time, around that period.
Mm-hmm.
I was staying with my nan, and I think I stayed there for a few nights. I think probably that subconsciously into me, that's why I didn't want to cry in front of my mum or in front of anybody. But I think it is so important because it's only going to cause those children pain, especially if it's boys, because I know women deal with it so much better in terms of how they express their emotions. And I just think men do struggle in that part. And I think if more men did do that, especially fathers with their sons, I think it would break those barriers and those stereotypes saying that men, it's okay to cry and it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I was thinking before as well as you were talking there, like today I was really struggling with something, and there was a lot of work, not emotional stuff, but just a lot of work and a lot of pressure going on. And I was like, I need some help here. Like, I can't do all of this. And I reached out to someone. I said, look, can you help me with this? And can we just break this down between us and stuff? And I think that's something that I've learned over time is that when I need help now, I'm not too proud to go and say to someone, look, I'm struggling here. Can you support me with this? Are you the same? Have you sort of learned through that process that you were talking about with your nan and your mum? Obviously with experience you develop and you understand better. Are you more open now to, supporting people and getting the support that you need for yourself because it's the best way to deal with things?
Yeah, I mean, I started speaking to Healthy Minds at the start of the year. I'd say February, January time. I rang. I needed to speak to somebody, and even though it was such a long time after my passing away of my mum, I needed to speak to somebody, and I've been so open and in those conversations with a complete stranger. But I've gotten better, but I just wanted to speak to somebody different. And not that I don't have that support network. In a nutshell, I've always spoke to my mum and my nana, and they're not there anymore. So to go and speak to anybody else would be strange, difficult. So I wanted to do it with somebody I didn't know. And they've been fantastic, by the way. NHS Healthy Minds, I went to my GP, and my GP, I saw 3 different doctors, and they all said the same thing. And it only took doctor number 3 for me to go, do you know what, I'm going to give it a try, give it a ring. And because it's quite a scary job. So someone to say that you need to go and speak to someone about your mental health, and me, and everybody who knows me, I like a laugh. I can be daft. I feel like I've got energy. I bring energy. For me to do that was very, very surreal and scary. Trust me. And I don't want to be like reading off a script, but scary. Didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it, but I did. And it's absolutely fine. And if anything, you come off the phone feeling you're not cured, but better, because you feel like, do you know what, this is going to work. So Yeah, I rang. We used to have a chat every week, once a week. Then it kind of was like once every month, and it helps, and the reason I did it because I could just remember. I know what my mum would say to me: "You need to go and speak to somebody because I cannot do what I did, how I reacted with my nan. So doing this way was the best way because you're upsetting people around you as well, Joe.
Mm.
Because people want to try and help you, and I'm an expert at just blocking people out. And I know it's not something to be proud of, but that's because I didn't know how to deal with it, and that was my weakness, and I didn't know what to say. And I always had this assumption, sorry, of people not knowing how to, you know, I always had this arrogance, like, well, you won't understand, you don't understand, and not because you've not had the same experience, but I've spoke to two people in my life for 25, 26 years of my life. My mum and nan have always provided the answers, and they've not always been the right answers, but I've always gone for counsel, and they're not there. So it was always, you know what, sod everyone else. And that attitude and mentality was wrong. So I had to try and figure out how to break them barriers. But just again, mate, healthy minds, NHS, God send. That's all I've got to say.
That's good. No, that's really important. I think it's good for you to be able to go out and express that. I'm going to put you on the spot now because there was one word that you said there before, and I just thought, go on, I want you to explain that a little bit more. And you said it was scary.
Yeah.
You know, what about it for you made it seem scary to have that conversation with somebody else?
It's just the fact that, well, remember we said at the start, and you said is it the pressure from others? You know, admitting you've got a mental health problem is, again, it's that assumption. It's what people think about you. Like what you said about the university thing. People didn't think you go to university. It used to be a bit of a, I don't know, I kind of got the impression it was a bit of a negative thing. And I think that's how I felt with the mental health. You know, to go out and reach out and tell someone that how you're feeling, a stranger, that you feel weak and you feel scared and you're worried all the time, and you know, really waterfall in your emotions. You know, it was what's going to happen. Am I gonna get better? Am I gonna get worse? What are people gonna think? Are people gonna change their opinion on me? Because I really do. I was worried about that, Joe. You know, oh right, okay, you got a mental health problem, all right. Do you know that sort of thing? And oh, is he all right? Do you know? I am all right. I'm fine. It's not like I go around dressed as a clown and smashing post boxes up. I'm not like a looney tune, which I think some people, I don't know, is that the stereotype? But you know, I was just worried on how people would see me and have their opinion of me. And I know that's a pride thing, because at the end of the day, I would say any other day, Joe, I'm not bothered what this person thinks of me. This is me, and this is me. But when you add the word mental health and then your name next to it,
Yeah,
changes the whole picture again. And I'll go back to the start with the football world and the real life world. If that's someone, if somebody doesn't maybe agree with how I coach or whatever, or don't agree with the ideas I do, that's absolutely fine. Here's my reasons for doing this. Sorry for those who aren't football, but that's the best way I can explain it. That's fine. We'll move on. But in this world, I'm not that footballs are not in the real world, but in my life, my social life, I would be totally different. I would be like not in person, but I would totally see that in a different way. Oh, okay, you don't. Okay, if that's how you feel because I've got that, then. And I'm not saying anybody has, Joe, but that's just how my mind was working. It was the assumption of people, and that's what really scared me. Everything like that.
And do you feel now, you know, you said before it's definitely helped you.
Yeah.
Have you, you know, learned from that experience of almost stepping into that fear of, I don't want to do this because I don't know how it's going to go and I'm scared of it, and then actually taking that step into the unknown or into the fear and doing the uncomfortable thing and coming out the other end?
Yeah, I mean, if for anyone who's watching this and if you're scared of making that call, what's the worst that can happen? They're a stranger. Do you know what I mean? They They don't know who you are. They are very compassionate, and doing that plunge and having that chat. And it's not a long chat. You know, you can put the phone down whenever you want. But I promise you, you'll have took more steps just picking that phone up. And even if it's a 5-minute chat, I come out of the other end and I felt, you know what, maybe we're going to get somewhere. And when people explain to you how you're feeling and why you're feeling that, I think I see things logically. And I like for people to people give me a logic reason why I'm doing this, or why I'm feeling like this, or why I'm scared about that. And when people kind of draw me a picture, I felt so much better. I'm not saying I'm cured, because that would be the wrong word, but I feel better, and I have felt better going through that process.
Yeah, that's the key word, isn't it? Process. I think.
Yeah,
that's the misconception sometimes, that everything is a quick fix. You know, in the world we live now, you can get things at the click of a. You press your phone and it's here the next day or whatever. Yeah, there is a process that you have to go through, isn't there? There's a step by step. Again, process. I can't think of a better way to describe it. You know, you've put it perfectly there. There is a process that you have to go through.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, I'll tell you now. I've got bad anxiety. That's what I kind of contracted. Because again, I needed reassurance. I had no reassurance from my mum and my nan, and that was the bit where it was like somebody stripped this bubble away from me, and then all these fears came in, and I used to just, Joe. And it's not so long ago. I mean, I know I forget it's July, but it was just before Christmas I started getting bad. And you know, I look back and I you know, like I say, if anyone watches it and if they do feel like they're in a bit of a dark place, just ring someone. And I know, and you know the reason as well, what made me make that phone call. So again, I made sure that I mentioned my mum from the experience from my nan, but it was just something that's about just looking on Twitter. And I saw Rio Ferdinand tweet something about mental health. Can't remember what it was, Joe. It was just a post, and I thought, I look at Rio Ferdinand as a hero, being a Man United fan. I loved Rio as a player. I like him as a pundit. I like him as a guy. And I just read that and I thought, you know what? I'm going to just do it. I know it sounds bizarre, but I thought, and I got the pamphlet, and I just thought, right, I'm just going to ring. And I think getting the message out there, like you're doing, I think it's amazing. I really do, because even though we're talking, I'm actually talking to you as well, in terms of the processes of mental health. I think it will do people watching it a lot of good, and I think it does people like myself coming on a lot of good, because it does sometimes feel like a bit of a closure in terms of, like you say, just reliving their bad times when my nan passed away and not dealing with it great. So I think awareness is key, mate. Awareness is so key, and going through that process.
Yeah, no, honestly, mate, I appreciate you coming on and being so open and honest about certain things, because I think it can be really tough for people to open up and have those conversations and, you know, admit that they struggled or they are struggling. And, you know, I really honor the fact that you are prepared to just sit there and kind of rehash that, you know, those tough moments.
Yeah.
We've all, you know, I think you've gone through, I've gone through, I imagine everybody goes through them, don't they? It's just how you deal with it and the process that you go through. You know, I just wanted to touch on the anxiety that you mentioned.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Just there a little while ago. Did you feel yourself getting more anxious, or was it something that just kind of happened? Was it a quick thing that you noticed, or did you notice it slowly over time becoming more of a thing within you?
Slowly.
Yeah.
So I would just, because obviously illness has just been a massive burden in over the last couple of years. I was just worried that I would get ill, and it wouldn't necessarily just be for me, it would be for other people. So if it was a close friend or someone I worked with, if I heard anything where someone wasn't great or someone might be a bit poorly, it's something daft as maybe having a knee up, or someone's going checking something out, my head would blow. And what would happen is all these memories and all these experiences from the past would come filtering through, and I would just be so scared, and it was like a dripping tap. And the only problem is that I was drowning, and it got to around about November. I would say last year was obviously the start, and at first, Joe, I never noticed it. I never really noticed it. But the frightening thing is, the mind can be so devious, where I just thought, I didn't think I had anxiety. It was only till someone told me I had anxiety. I was just so scared, and I'm going to tell you now, I still have a bit of it. I'm not going to lie. Like I say, I don't think there's a cure. And as I spoke to the lady from the NHS Healthy Minds, she's just told me how to deal with it. And that some days you'll have your bad days, but there's ways how to conquer it. But just going back to it, it would just be a slow process. And then it got to November, December, January, and it got to the point where it was physically affecting me. So lightheaded, feeling a bit sick, and then that goes into overdrive, and scary. It was scary. And again, I go back to, people who watch this who know me. And Paul, it sounds nothing like me, that, Joe.
Mm.
But I come on here and can be comfortable telling you and be confident in telling you, because I just don't want anyone to go through that. And it's fine. It's fine if you're feeling like that, because there is ways of beating it. So I feel like I've come from up. I got to that peak, and I've started to slowly slant a bit. So it has been better, but it did. I always preferred it to the woman as like a demon, and it just sleeps in there, and it will just come out every now and then. And that's the best way I could explain it.
Mm.
But it's just battling them demons in it, which is the tough bit, and it's not easy. It just takes talking. Talking is the cure for me in terms of getting past it.
No, I appreciate you being honest about that, pal. Can you just, you don't have to go all the way into it, but what sort of stuff did that lady give you or explain to you of good ways to deal with it? What was the advice to get through the darker days, for the want of a better phrase there?
Yeah, so we would just do some little things like write everything that you feel on a piece of paper. And she made me read it. She said, look at it, and how does that make you feel? And I think, God, I don't want to be like that.
Mm.
And she just basically said, imagine a 60-year-old you looking back in your 20s and thinking, God, why was I worrying about all that at that time? She said I had a hypothetical anxiety, just stirring something in my head. And she said, if you're worried about it, find a little moment, 10 minutes of your time in the shower, in the bed. Think about it, leave the room, walk away, done. And then, and she said, start with 15 minutes, then 10 minutes, then 5, and, just slowly break it down. I used to just do it in the shower. I couldn't do it in a room. She said, you can do it in the shower, you can do it in a quiet room, in your car. So that was it, just little techniques. And she would always ask how it would go in, and they'd send me a booklet. So, and there's other ones as well, but they were the main, just the main ones.
And they work for you?
Yeah, I think the one where reading it off a piece of paper worked, and you did like bubble work. So you'd have it on loudspeaker, you'd have a pen and paper, and it was just, weirdly, it was nice. I know it sounds a bit strange, but it was nice because I felt like I had a buddy with me, helping me. Not like you was seeking your friend.
Yeah.
And really importantly, you mentioned that, reaching out for someone to help you. Very similar to me, Joe, with the phone call. So I felt like I had someone having an arm around me, even though it wasn't nice what we were talking about, and in terms of what I was feeling. But I felt like, you know what, we'll get through this, and it did.
Brilliant. That's so good, and that's so positive. To, I think it is important when you hit a dark space that you find a way to switch the light on. You find a way to get.
Definitely.
You can sort of see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you move towards it rather than just staying where you are. Again, that process of moving forward. And if you, from what you said before, it sounds like you've come a long way from where you were, let's say, at Christmas.
Yeah.
And do you?
Yeah.
Go on, mate. No,
Sorry,
you go.
no, I'm just saying. Sorry, mate. I've would say from Christmas. I'm not there. I'm not there yet, but I'm a long way away from where I was.
Yeah.
And I like you say, light at the end of the tunnel. So I do feel like I've still got a bit to go, Joe, 100%, and I know that, and I just need to really focus and beat it out of my head. But I'm a million times better than I was, so I am grateful for that. So yeah.
And that's good, mate. That again, I appreciate you being honest with that, and I appreciate you, admitting that. Yeah, you're not. I mean, none of us are perfect, but you know yourself. You're still a work in progress
Yeah.
with the anxiety, and I think we're all a work in progress to a point. Whether it's
Yeah.
anxiety or something like that. That's really important. So, I mean, we could sit here and talk all day. So I'm not going to stop now. I'm going to keep going unless you've got somewhere to be.
No, mate. No, I'm all good, mate. You keep
So for
cracking on, pal.
you, when you're out with your mates, I mean, I know it's hard at the moment. We mentioned this before we started recording, didn't we? That lockdown didn't really change for you in terms of work, but obviously the social side of it changed. Did that have a big effect on you, or was it just something that you just dealt with, like because you didn't really have a choice?
I just dealt with it, Joe. Luckily, I mean, I live with my girlfriend. We live together in the house, so I obviously have someone to talk to. And I think technology is important. I think just going back, normally I would be doing a lot more of these podcasts, but I think it's just been hard getting people on, and obviously, again, I'm going through my own little battles as well. Obviously, this was going back now from March in terms of just mentally getting right and just trying to enjoy the rest. But with terms of social, the social part, I've not seen anybody. Technology is a blessing, so I can speak to people on the Zooms, on my Xbox. I speak to friends on there, a phone call. I mean, it's not the same as being in the same room as someone, but I've just tried to keep occupied. I've watched videos on YouTube about just anything and everything, football, coaching, just because I've not been able to do it, webinars. So I've been all right, Joe. It's not affecting me like I know it has affected a lot, but don't get me wrong, there's been some days where you feel a bit uncomfortable in terms of just not being able to go to the shops with your mate or go for a drink or go and watch the footy. But I adapted really quick. And like you say, I think going to work has given me a little routine. So I've been lucky in that department.
Yeah. Go on. What did you what kept you busy during lockdown? I know you said you were playing Xbox and watching a lot of YouTube and stuff. What else were you doing to keep your mind occupied?
Well, FIFA's a big one, isn't it? Because if I can't watch it, I'll swear and play it. The Last Dance documentary. Do you know what? I think that was really important watching that. What a documentary. Have you seen?
I have, yeah, superb. He was a different kind of person, wasn't he?
The best honestly, and I'm obviously a big football fan, but that is the best sporting documentary I've watched. I've watched a lot. I've seen the NFL ones, I've seen basketball ones, I've seen football ones, I've seen obviously fighting ones, but that was the best for me. Just so personal. Films, walks. Honestly, I didn't realise how beautiful Thames was until a worldwide pandemic had to hit us. So I've been able to explore the real world, and that's it. I've not really done that much. I'm just work. I mean, this is hardcore lockdown. This was before, this was before any of the shops we've opened, which I've not been to. I've not stood in a shop yet. So yeah, that's just been basically it, mate. Documentaries, films, games, and a bit of Zoom.
Anything to fill time, because it's a weird time, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Last Dance was good. I did enjoy that. Go on, what else did you watch that you enjoyed? Any films that you could recommend?
I watched it. That was it. I got Disney Plus just before all this happened. It's like Disney predicted it. So I bought Disney Plus and I watched all the Marvel films from start to finish. And do you know what? I thought to myself, if I watch 20 odd films, it's crazy this because obviously we're still in it, but I thought it'll be all over. If I watch one film a night, So that's about a month. I watched All or Nothing documentaries. I watched the Man City one.
Yeah, seen that.
And obviously I'm a Man United fan, but I'm not going to watch it because it's City. I genuinely like stuff like that. So I watched the Leeds United one. Take Me Home. I watched the NFL ones. I'm actually just thinking back now, Joe. I've actually watched a lot of telly. It's gone on for a while, this, hasn't it? I had to think that I've seen the Leeds one in all this as well.
Yeah. Know the feeling.
I've just been watching this bit of nostalgia. Watched Lord of the Rings again, bit of Star Wars, Inside Man. Just random films. I watched the Hangover films. I've just, but predominantly I've just been hitting literally so many gems you can find on YouTube.
Yeah.
The Coach's Voice, that's a good one, and the FA have done a lot of webinars. So I've just been watching those really. And if I've not been doing that, I've just been going on walks.
Yeah, you're in a nice spot as well for walking, aren't you?
Oh yeah, it's like the Shire around here.
Yeah.
It's like the Shire with smashed telephone boxes. I'm joking. It's nice. It's lovely around there. It's good.
Yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, I think I've probably walked more in the last 3 months than I had in my entire life up to that point. And probably the same with TV as well. I probably watched more TV over the last March, April, May, three and a bit months.
The digits coming off this Fitbit, mate, when you're going on walks is ridiculous. Honestly, I think my phone's telling me I've walked to China and back. That's the levels we've been hitting. And at one point, my Fitbit thought I was dead because I've not used it. I've just dug it out, and Kelsey bought it me last year, so I use it for work, but I don't really use it for the step thing. So I keep getting little rewards every now and then. I feel good about myself. So. And the occasional run. I've just been going on the odd run, so it's nice, mate. What about yourself? Have you watched it? Is there anything that stood out for you watching it? I'm intrigued, Joe, because I know you've...
Honestly, mate, I've watched that much. I can't remember what I've watched. That's how daft it is.
A bit like me.
Honestly, I feel like every half-decent series on Netflix I've watched. I watched Money Heist.
A lot of people have watched that, yeah.
It was long, and because it's in Spanish, but we watched it with English sound. So it was a bit weird, but really enjoyed it. Yeah, the Last Dance was just, but like, honestly, I think I watched that in about, I think I watched every episode within a day.
I know a lot of people have done that. I took me 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, and I
don't. It is, you just want to go through the next one, don't you?
Yeah, and I think with that, it wasn't because I'm a binge watcher. I'm not really a binge watcher, but I was so hooked on it, and I was so fascinated by what people said and how they talked about him, and just how he kind of literally grabbed everybody and just said, "Come on, step up a little bit." And I really like things like that because, I think from a mental health point of view, but also just from a development point of view as well, looking at someone like that who is an elite, and I'm talking elite athlete, the way he improved people around him, the way he drove not only his teammates and himself, but like the whole franchise of the Chicago Bulls into a completely new direction. And I was in awe of the man, honestly. Like, sometimes you think, oh, if I met him, I'd be starstruck, and I was almost starstruck just looking at him through the TV, because I think when you look at someone like that, you see the achievement, you see the trophies, and you see the money and the fame, but you don't see all the crap that goes before it.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by that. I obviously I love people, but I'm fascinated by people's stories as well, and how do they get to where they are now? Because there are so many things that you don't see. It's like the iceberg effect, isn't it? The 10% is above the surface, but 90% of it's below the surface.
True.
I'm fascinated in that 90%, and I think that's part of the reason why I enjoyed that so much, because it wasn't just him on the basketball court. It was him, as a man, just dragging people and saying, you know what, I want to be the best, and you're going to have to be better. Because there was so much. What else? I'm trying to, honestly, mate, I've watched so much. There was something called The Bodyguard that was on Netflix. I think it was originally on BBC a few years ago. That was decent. I'm almost like trying to think of what have I watched, and I can think of so many things. They actually are really, really
too many, mate. Too many.
There's a really good one. I can't even think of the name now. It was kind of, again, I think it might have been on the BBC. It was about a detective in Korea, and his brother moved to London, and it kind of like crossed over, and there was some scenes in London, there was some scenes in Korea, and it was just really, really clever.
Yeah,
Couldn't tell
that
you.
does sound familiar, but I'm not really. I don't really. I've kind of got into I kind of get sucked into watching one thing. So, just going with the documentaries and just going back to the Michael Jordan one. So what, watching that made me feel so much better about myself. And it gives you like some little drive. Not like oh yeah, I'm amazing, but it just makes you feel, do you know what? Yeah, I could do a bit more. Just in day-to-day things.
Yeah.
And he also opened up, and just going back to what we were talking about in terms of the assumption of what people thought about him, because all them other guys, I know one or two weren't a big fan, and they might have probably said a bit more truth off camera. But at the end of the day, they've got winning. They've got rings, haven't they? Because of him, basically, because of that push and fight and desire. And he even shedded a couple of tears, didn't he, Jordan? When he knew that people maybe not agreed, but I think he was upset for the fact, you know what, I absolutely poured my heart out, gave up that friendship that we possibly could have had for the success and desire of creating history. So, kudos to the guy, mate. He's an absolute hero.
Yeah, there are certain
hero.
There are certain people that you just look at, not just in sport, but in general, and think you are. I think we're all capable of amazing things, but like you just look at them and go, the drive, where does that come from?
Yeah.
Someone like him and people that I listen to, motivational speakers and people who are just so successful, and I just want to know, like, yes, you've got to this point, but tell me about everything that's gone before it. Tell me, all the struggles that you went through, and all the times that you felt like quitting, and all the times that you thought you weren't good enough, and those are the things that I enjoy more than the actual point of where they are right now.
Yeah, and it was his network, wasn't it? It was his family that drove Jordan, his brothers and his sisters. And it goes back to that, doesn't it? And again, just talking about back from, in terms of my coaching journey, it goes back to my network. That is how I got into it. My dad wasn't a football coach. My mum wasn't a football coach. I'm an only child. It was the motivation to say, you know what, you can go and do that. Go for it, sort of thing. And break barriers, and that's what I did. And I'll be honest with you, again, sometimes we get in this bubble where you've got to do this to get there, and you have to be that to be this. It's not necessarily as black and white as that. And like, honestly, Joe, I said to you when I just passed last year, when I passed my B license, when I saw you last year, I can't believe, you'd have told me that 10 years ago. No way. Seriously, no way. So obviously now my next aim is A license. That's something I'd like to consider. And I might, it might be next year, or it won't be next year, but you know what I'm saying? It might be 5 years, 10 years. I'm giving myself a goal, and I'm going to go as far as I can. But again, Jordan, network. Everyone else, get your network.
Yeah, I think that's important, and I think I think we can finish on that. I think having that network, especially as a man these days, having that network of people around you that you can rely on, that you can turn to, that you can sort of go to when you need them, and get that lift when you're looking for that lift when you're 100%. A bit down, or have that conversation. So, mate, honestly, thank you so much for spending almost an hour and a half of your time talking about vulnerability and your anxiety and stuff, because I think, it's very hard to open up sometimes, but I really appreciate your honesty and I really appreciate your vulnerability.
Mate, no thanks. It's been good, mate. It's been nice seeing you. I just wanted to be honest, mate. Hopefully it was okay. But yeah, mate, I've thoroughly enjoyed it, mate. It's been good.
It's been fantastic. I've really enjoyed it. As always, I could sit and talk to you all day. I feel like we've done we've done the podcast last year and we've spent 3 hours, but I feel like we could have gone from December all the way till now talking about everything, couldn't we? So, mate, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I honour your vulnerability and your honesty as a man, and really appreciate you coming on.
Cheers, mate. No, appreciate that, Joe. Appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Paul. I appreciate you.
Cheers, pal.